Beneath the grey skyline of Pyongyang, where concrete towers rise like silent sentinels over empty boulevards, there are other cities, ones without sunlight, where the air hums with recycled breath and power never flickers. Imagine descending a staircase guarded by marble lions, past portraits of the Kims lit by fluorescent halos, and realizing that you are moving not down into a basement, but into another world entirely. It begins like an ordinary shelter, the kind of structure every capital might hide beneath its streets. But in North Korea, nothing hidden is ordinary. The deeper you go, the more the walls shift from practicality to extravagance, mosaic tiles, imported chandeliers, and corridors that stretch farther than any official map allows. People whisper that these tunnels connect the homes of the elite to secret resorts, that trains glide silently between mountain bunkers, and that there are rooms beneath the capital more luxurious than anything above it. It sounds impossible until you see the pattern. The way entire neighborhoods have power blackouts while one sector glows faintly beneath the ground. The sound of distant ventilation fans, the heat that rises through metal grates in the middle of winter. Every city keeps secrets, but Pyongyang's are carved in stone and silence. Those who have spoken of it say the entrance is disguised inside an otherwise unremarkable building, sometimes a hotel, sometimes a government office. You pass through layers of permission and performance, guards who don't speak, cameras that don't blink. Then you reach an elevator that never appears on any public diagram. The descent feels endless, the hum of machinery swallowing all sense of direction. And when the doors open, the first thing you notice is not the grandeur, it's the stillness. The air is filtered, heavy and clean. The ceiling arches like a cathedral's vault, lined with embedded lights that mimic dawn. The floor gleams as if polished daily by invisible hands. This is the underground Pyongyang that few will ever know. Built not for survival, but for indulgence. A place where the chosen live in a comfort that the surface can't even imagine. Here, the illusion of perfection is absolute. There are corridors that stretch for kilometers, linking banquet halls, private cinemas, and spas filled with imported mineral water. The architecture is a strange hybrid, Soviet utilitarianism draped in feudal opulence. Walls of red marble carved with patriotic reliefs, bronze doors engraved with the sun and the mountain, symbols of eternal leadership. In one chamber, fountains ripple beneath portraits of Kim Il-sung, their water-tinted gold under hidden lighting. In another, a theater stands perpetually ready, its seats empty, its stage set for performances no one ever attends. It's said that music from state orchestras once echoed here during private feasts, when high-ranking officials dined underground, while citizens above rationed their last handful of rice. But luxury here doesn't shimmer, it broods. The deeper one walks, the more it feels like a tomb for the living. The walls carry no laughter, no chatter, no scent of life, only the residue of power. You can sense the hierarchy in the silence, the elite who descend for comfort, the guards who descend for duty, and the workers who never ascend again. Defectors speak of maintenance crews kept underground for weeks, never seeing daylight, repairing ventilation systems that feed the hidden empire beneath the capital. Their rations were better, their silence absolute. No one asked questions because in North Korea, curiosity is a crime with no appeal. Imagine the paradox. Above ground, loud propaganda broadcasts declare the country's self-reliance, its unyielding equality. Below ground, wine imported from France sits on tables beside caviar from the Caspian Sea. While citizens queue for cornmeal, the regime's chosen few sip champagne from crystal glasses deep under the earth. In these subterranean salons, every surface gleams, every object whispers devotion. Even the ashtrays are embossed with the smiling face of the eternal president. There is no window, yet they pretend to see the sunrise. There is no horizon, yet they toast to the future. To live underground here is not imprisonment, it is privilege. No foreign journalist has ever been allowed to verify these chambers fully. Yet patterns emerge through testimonies, through satellite imagery, through the faint tremors that ripple beneath the city. One defector spoke of a second Pyongyang, built in the 1970s, when the leadership feared nuclear attack. But what began as bunkers became playgrounds for the powerful. Entire complexes evolved with swimming pools, saunas and dining halls large enough to host banquets for hundreds. There were even underground farms, hydroponic gardens feeding only the elite. The idea was survival, yes, but also separation. The deeper the regime dug, the more it distanced itself from the people above. It's said that during the coldest nights, when electricity failed across Pyongyang, the underground city thrived. While families shivered in darkness, laughter and music seeped faintly through the ground, barely perceptible but real enough to haunt. In one account, a technician claimed to hear echoes of violin music through ventilation shafts while repairing a generator tunnel. When he looked into the shaft, he saw only light and a long metal ladder descending into warmth. He didn't dare climb down. In North Korea, even sound can be dangerous. Every element of this hidden luxury serves a psychological purpose: to remind the elite of their sanctity, to prove that even beneath the soil the supreme leader provides. The underground palace is not just architecture, it's ideology made stone, the illusion that paradise already exists, that the faithful have nothing to fear, a place where portraits of the Kims never gather dust, where the air is perfumed and time moves differently, because when you are underground long enough, you begin to forget the sun. There's a legend among defectors about a tunnel leading from the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun, the mausoleum where Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il lie embalmed, to an unknown underground complex reserved for the living. Some claim this passage allows the leader's successors to commune with the eternal in private, away from the eyes of their people. Others say it connects to the Pyongyang Metro's restricted lines, used not for commuters, but for convoys of officials moving unseen. The metro itself, unusually deep, over 100 meters below ground, feeds the myth. Tourists ride only 2 stations, both ornate and gleaming, but the rest of the network remains a mystery. Some believe it merges into these hidden corridors of luxury and control, where power literally travels beneath the population. The atmosphere within these subterranean sanctuaries must be surreal. Artificial daylight cycles simulate dawn and dusk. Climate control systems keep the temperature constant, a perfect 72 degrees. There's no weather, no dust, no seasons. Time loses meaning. Days blend into an endless continuity of comfort. Perhaps that's why those who live within forget the cost of such perfection, the millions above enduring scarcity, cold, and propaganda designed to keep them loyal to a paradise they will never touch. The contrast is staggering. 2 worlds divided by meters of earth, one built on the suffering of the other. Some foreign diplomats who've glimpsed fragments of this world speak cautiously. A few recall receptions held in underground halls when tensions with the West were high. "Safer below," one reportedly said, "and much more beautiful." The phrase captures the irony. Safety and beauty here coexist only underground, far from the real North Korea that struggles for survival each winter. Above ground, citizens rehearse loyalty. Below ground, the regime rehearses immortality. The question is not whether such luxury exists, it's why it must remain buried. Because what's hidden beneath Pyongyang is more than excess, it's confession. It reveals the regime's deepest truth, that fear and privilege are 2 sides of the same coin. The leaders who preach sacrifice have built their own salvation under concrete and silence, and yet in that silence there's fragility. What happens when those above begin to suspect what lies below? What happens when the myth of equality cracks, even slightly? For now, the surface holds. Citizens walk the boulevards, bow before monuments, and recite slogans about unity and strength. Few imagine that beneath their feet lies a parallel civilization, a sanctuary of forbidden comfort protected by walls of secrecy and blood. But sometimes late at night, when the lights of Pyongyang flicker and the air feels too still, you can almost sense the pulse of the city below, the hum of its generators, the vibration of unseen doors sliding open. Somewhere down there, a banquet continues, uninterrupted. The deeper question isn't how such places were built, but why the regime believes they must exist at all. Is it paranoia, self-preservation, or a godlike need to inhabit a world untouched by consequence? The truth is probably all of these. The underground luxury is both fortress and fantasy, a manifestation of power's deepest fear, that the world above could one day turn against it. So it burrows deeper, surrounds itself with beauty, and pretends the surface no longer matters. And yet, even perfection underground must rot in time. Marble cracks, metal corrodes, air grows stale. The illusion of eternity depends on constant maintenance, on workers who clean what they'll never own, on engineers who repair systems they're forbidden to understand. These are the ghosts of Pyongyang's underworld, the unseen hands keeping the dream alive. No one remembers their names. No one dares to. When their work ends, so does their presence. In the records, they vanish like the tunnels themselves. If you stand in the middle of Kim Il-sung Square, the ground beneath you hums faintly. Tourists don't notice, soldiers pretend not to hear, and citizens look straight ahead. But that vibration tells a story. It's the sound of engines powering the hidden arteries of the regime. A reminder that what you see in North Korea is never all there is. For every street there is a corridor beneath. For every building, a bunker. For every life on the surface, a secret existence below. Perhaps that is the ultimate metaphor for North Korea itself, a nation divided not by geography but by depth. Those who live above ground survive on faith and fear. Those below live on privilege and denial. The soil between them holds the truth, compacted and silent. And somewhere in that darkness, luxury gleams, not as comfort, but as proof of how far a regime will go to protect its illusion of control. For now, the entrances remain sealed, guarded by silence and myth. But the world is listening closer each year, tracing the tremors, mapping the whispers, assembling the puzzle. The story of North Korea's underground luxury is not just about architecture. It's about the psychology of power, the moral cost of secrecy, and the fragile empire that must hide underground to survive. It is said that when you walk the streets of Pyongyang at night, the city feels like a stage set waiting for actors to return. But somewhere beneath your feet, the performance never ends. The chandeliers still glow, the fountains still sing, and the invisible audience of the powerful still applauds themselves in the dark. This is how the illusion endures, hidden beneath the earth, surrounded by silence, fueled by fear, and draped always in luxury. There is a peculiar irony in the way North Korea hides its wealth. Most nations flaunt their luxury, using it to project strength. North Korea buries it, literally, beneath layers of secrecy and concrete, as if ashamed of its own abundance. To understand why, you have to return to the 1970s, when the first seeds of these underground sanctuaries were planted. Kim Il-sung, already viewed as a living deity, feared two things above all: invasion and exposure. The memory of war still haunted every bunker and every mind. He had seen what bombs could do, and he vowed that his dynasty would never again be at the mercy of the skies. Thus began a decades-long obsession with building down instead of up. Engineers from the Soviet Union and East Germany were quietly brought in. They taught the regime how to carve through granite, how to build entire chambers that could survive nuclear strikes. But when the foreign experts left, something changed. The purpose of protection became the pursuit of perfection. The bunkers were no longer merely shelters, they became palaces. The foundations of Pyongyang's underground luxury are said to lie beneath the old command tunnels used during the Korean War. What began as strategic necessity evolved into psychological theater. At first, only a few corridors were fitted with comfort, a meeting room here, a small dining hall there. But as Kim Jong-il rose in influence, the designs grew extravagant. He was fascinated by cinema, by aesthetics, by pleasure concealed behind duty. It's whispered that he personally supervised the creation of underground theaters, with imported velvet seats and Japanese projection systems that cost more than most North Koreans would earn in a lifetime. The idea of building beauty where no one could see it appealed to him. It was power made invisible, the most dangerous kind. Over the decades, the tunnels expanded like veins beneath the heart of the nation. Some lead to known landmarks, the Koryo Hotel, the Grand People's Study House, even the Hushe Tower. Others vanish into the mountains north of the capital. According to defectors who once served in the construction brigades, there are entire districts beneath Pyongyang, designed exclusively for the privileged. They describe gated compounds where the walls are lined with imported Italian marble, where artificial streams run through indoor gardens, and where even the birdsong is piped through hidden speakers. When these accounts reached the outside world, they were dismissed as fantasy, until satellite data revealed unusual thermal activity beneath supposedly empty zones. Something was alive down there. To the ordinary North Korean, such tales are blasphemy. The very suggestion that the leaders could indulge while the people starve contradicts decades of indoctrination. And yet, rumors persist. Farmers in the countryside speak of military convoys carrying shipments marked with foreign symbols, French wine, Swiss chocolate, luxury toiletries, bound not for export, but for the capital's subterranean storerooms. When these items vanish, so do the drivers. Silence replaces them. The state calls it reassignment. Those who know better call it disappearance. In these depths, everything has a function, even decadence. The regime's philosophy demands that luxury serve loyalty. Underground privilege isn't a reward, it's proof of devotion. Only the most trusted are invited below. Each feast, each private concert, each imported dish is a test. One false expression, one misplaced question could end a life. That's why these spaces feel sacred, not in a spiritual sense, but in their intensity. Power here is ritualized. Every crystal glass raised is a vow of allegiance. Every painting of Kim Il-sung that glows under dim light is a reminder of who owns the air they breathe. Imagine a long corridor that seems to stretch endlessly. Along its walls, red banners proclaim eternal loyalty to the supreme leader, though no citizen ever sees them. At its end, a banquet room opens into blinding brightness. The ceiling mirrors the surface, digital screens displaying clouds drifting across an artificial sky. At the center of the table sits an empty chair, always waiting, always reserved. No one dares to occupy it, for it symbolizes the leader himself, even when he is not present. Meals begin and end with a toast to that absence. In the underground world, even emptiness has authority. The construction of these places required an army of invisible workers. Most were soldiers from the 8th Bureau, the unit responsible for military engineering projects. Others were prisoners, men and women whose crimes were often nothing more than speaking out of turn. They dug through frozen soil with hand tools, hauling debris for years without ever seeing sunlight. When the projects were completed, many were executed or reassigned to remote provinces to ensure silence. Their sweat became mortar. Their fear became foundation. It is said that some of the marble used in the deepest chambers bears faint stains that no amount of polishing could remove. Those stains are not myth, they are memory. In one of the rare testimonies smuggled out of the country, a former engineer described the process of building what he called the Sun Palace below the earth. He spoke of chambers designed with perfect acoustics, where the faintest whisper could carry from one end to the other. He spoke of mirrored halls meant to distort perception, creating the illusion of infinite space. It was beautiful, he admitted. But I knew I was building something evil. He never learned who the rooms were for. He only knew that when the first banquet was held, the builders were gone. There are hints that the underground extends far beyond Pyongyang. In Myeongsan, a mountain retreat revered as the sacred birthplace of the revolution, foreign visitors have long been puzzled by the presence of heavy blast doors hidden behind temple-like facades. Local guides insist they lead to storage rooms, but satellite imagery and seismic readings suggest larger cavities beneath the surface, spaces that breathe, that release heat. One defector who once worked as a driver for the elite claimed that convoys would enter the mountain and not emerge for days. When he asked what was inside, his superior told him, "Paradise for those who obey." The concept of underground paradise defines North Korea's contradictions. It is the material proof of Yucha's failure, a philosophy that preaches self-reliance while hiding imported decadence beneath the soil. The people are told that suffering is noble, that hardship purifies. Meanwhile, below, the air smells of imported tobacco and perfume. The same leaders who forbid Western influence recline on European furniture, watch foreign films, and dine on forbidden fruit, all while condemning those who dream of the outside world. It is hypocrisy fossilized in concrete. To walk these tunnels, if one ever could, would feel like traversing the psyche of the regime itself. Every corridor, every sealed chamber mirrors a psychological wall. a fear of collapse, a desire for control. The deeper you go, the more surreal the symbols become. Statues of the leaders rendered in gold leaf, murals depicting the sun rising not over mountains, but from within the earth, as if even the laws of nature must bend to the dynasty's narrative. These images are not decoration, they are indoctrination. Each one whispers the same message. Even here underground, the leader is light. Foreign intelligence agencies have long suspected that these luxury networks serve dual purposes: pleasure and protection. Some are thought to be connected to military command centers capable of surviving nuclear strikes. Others are believed to house reserves of gold, art, and rare medicine. There are even unverified reports of secret clinics below ground, where high-ranking officials receive treatments unavailable to anyone else in the country. The idea of immortality runs deep in North Korean mythology. Beneath the capital, it takes form as medical science, preserved organs, cryogenic experiments whispered about but never confirmed. Power here seeks eternity, even as the nation above struggles to live through the week. During major parades or national crises, a strange phenomenon occurs. Streets empty, checkpoints multiply, and certain zones of the capital become off-limits. While the public watches soldiers march and missiles roll by, something else happens underground. Convoys descend, doors seal, communication lines switch to private frequencies. It is believed that in these moments, the ruling family and top officials retreat to their underground citadels, not in fear, but in ceremony, to reaffirm their separateness, to remind themselves that they exist beyond danger. Above them, the people cheer. Below, the regime drinks to its own survival. Every once in a while, the illusion falters. In 2010, after a series of minor earthquakes near the capital, residents reported unusual lights flickering beneath the streets, as if the ground itself were glowing. The government dismissed it as an electrical malfunction, but for days afterward, armed patrols guarded certain intersections and entire neighborhoods were forbidden from entering basements. Something had cracked. Perhaps a wall. Perhaps the illusion. The city returned to normal soon enough, but those who heard the subterranean tremors never forgot them. They said it felt like the earth sighing under the weight of its secrets. This duality, the world above and the world below, defines modern North Korea. The surface is performance, the underground is truth. Above, the people chant slogans. Below, the powerful live like gods. Yet both are prisons. The citizens are trapped by fear, the elite by paranoia. For all its luxury, the underground world is not free. Every room is wired, every hallway monitored. Even the highest-ranking official cannot whisper without being heard. In that sense, the opulence becomes its own punishment. The more beautiful the cage, the more complete the control. Sometimes during the state's orchestrated blackouts, Pyongyang plunges into darkness so complete that the stars return, a rare miracle in a city of surveillance. And in those moments, if you could stand at the banks of the Taedong River and listen carefully, you might hear a low hum rising from beneath the ground, a heartbeat steady and mechanical. It is the pulse of the hidden world, the sound of generators feeding light into the darkness, ensuring that somewhere below, luxury never sleeps. The tragedy of this subterranean paradise is that it is built upon the suffering of those who will never see it. Every polished surface hides the sweat of the unseen. Every meal served underground costs a family's meal above. The balance is cruel, deliberate and essential. Because for the regime to thrive, disparity must be absolute. The illusion of equality requires the existence of unseen privilege, and so, the deeper the luxury goes, the darker the truth becomes. In the end, the tunnels beneath Pyongyang are more than structures. They are mirrors, reflecting the moral architecture of a state that survives by concealing itself. A place where comfort is currency, secrecy is survival, and silence is law. And somewhere in the depths of that hidden kingdom, the lights remain on, always, waiting for no one. The story of North Korea's underground luxury is not finished. It is still being written in whispers, in vibrations, in faint heat signatures that satellites continue to trace. What lies beneath remains unseen, but it is there, pulsing quietly under the feet of a nation taught to look only upward. Those who have escaped the surface can never forget what they sensed below, the hum of forbidden comfort, the soft echo of laughter that wasn't supposed to exist, and the chilling realization that in North Korea, even paradise must hide underground. There is a moment, deep in the bowels of Pyongyang, when sound ceases to behave as it should. You can whisper, and the air doesn't carry it forward. It simply absorbs it, like a secret devoured before it can escape. In these depths, even sound obeys power. The walls were designed for that, the ceilings too. Every curve, every angle built to ensure that voices remain trapped within the confines of control. No echo without permission, no sound without consequence. It is here, somewhere beneath the capital's rigid skyline, that North Korea's most forbidden luxury hides in plain darkness. The kind of place that exists only because it must never be seen. They call it the Underground Palace, though no one who has entered it calls it anything at all. There are no official records, no photographs, no acknowledgements in state literature, but whispers leak as they always do, through defectors, through diplomats, through the geometry of satellite heat maps that reveal patterns the government pretends don't exist. The palace is said to lie nearly 100 meters below the capital, protected by reinforced blast doors several feet thick. Within it, a self-contained world of perpetual light, recycled air, and invisible privilege. Some say it stretches beneath the Taedong River itself. Others say it connects to Mount Myohyang and beyond, to the mythical tunnels that run toward the Chinese border, escape routes designed not for the people, but for the gods who rule them. The interior, according to those who have glimpsed it, is a contradiction made real. It is both opulent and claustrophobic, indulgent yet sterile. Imagine chandeliers that never flicker because the electricity never runs out. Marble that shines beneath lights mimicking dawn, even though no sunlight will ever reach it. Paintings of the Kim family adorning the walls, each illuminated by a single golden lamp, as if worshipped by the architecture itself. In these portraits, their eyes follow you, glowing faintly under the filtered light, watching with divine indifference. And beneath each portrait, the same inscription in bold, immaculate Korean script: "The sun shines, even below the earth." Here, high-ranking officials dine without hunger. The wine is French, the caviar Russian, the water imported from springs in the Swiss Alps. It is ironic. A regime that preaches self-reliance drinks from the veins of the capitalist world it despises. But that's the nature of power here. Contradiction is not a flaw, it is doctrine. To indulge while forbidding indulgence is the ultimate proof of control. To enjoy what others can't imagine is to remind them that imagination itself is dangerous. Rumors claim that Kim Jong-il once used this underground palace as a private cinema. He would descend in silence with his entourage, each person carrying a role rather than an identity. The screenings were ritualistic. Western films, banned for the nation, projected against pristine white walls. A personal window into the world he forbade. He studied them like sacred texts, learning their rhythm, their illusion. Some say that this is where he conceived the aesthetics of North Korean propaganda, blending Hollywood's emotional manipulation with totalitarian devotion. In the dark, the dictator learned the language of spectacle. In a way, these secret chambers birthed the myth of modern North Korea itself. But beyond the elite's comfort, there's another layer, darker and far more secretive, the maintenance world. Beneath the marble floors lies a secondary labyrinth, unseen even by the privileged. It is where the air is filtered, the power sustained, and the illusion maintained. This is the realm of the forgotten. Workers here don't see daylight for months. They are recruited from political prison camps, volunteered through coercion. Their existence erased from the nation's records. Their job is to keep perfection alive, to ensure that the powerful above never breathe stale air, never hear the hum of malfunction, never feel the slightest imperfection in their underground Eden. The irony is brutal. The paradise of the few rests entirely upon the captivity of the many. One defector, an engineer named Choi, later revealed what little he remembered. He spoke of metallic corridors with red warning lights, of signs that read, "No reflection without permission." The air was so pure it hurt to breathe. He said the workers were forbidden to look up at the ceilings because the reflected light was considered sacred, meant only for those in power. Choi escaped years later, and when asked what he feared most, he didn't say death, he said silence. "It follows you," he whispered. "Even when you leave, it's still there." That silence defines everything about this hidden world. Silence is not absence here, it is control. Every pipe hums in disciplined rhythm, every door seals without a sound. The architecture itself is obedient. Some engineers say it resembles the body of a living organism. A vast circulatory system of metal veins and stone arteries, pumping air, heat, and power to sustain the illusion of eternity. If the regime were to fall tomorrow, the underground world could outlive it for years, self-sufficient, eternal, untouchable. And yet eternity is never as permanent as those who build it believe. The older tunnels creak under pressure. Water seeps through concrete, corroding wires and walls. The deeper sections, some built before the 1980s, are slowly decaying, despite constant maintenance. Even perfection erodes in the dark. Defectors who once worked as inspectors claimed that some corridors were sealed permanently after structural fatigue. Others were flooded deliberately to hide what they contained. What did they hide? Perhaps outdated luxuries, perhaps failed experiments, perhaps something more human, the evidence of those who once labored there and were erased once their usefulness ended. The moral rot mirrors the physical one. For every new generation of leaders, new tunnels are built. Each layer buries the previous, literally entombing the old beneath the new. The luxury doesn't replace the decay, it hides it. It's a palimpsest of power, written in concrete and blood. The old engineers vanish, their names scrubbed from every record, their families relocated. The official story never changes. North Korea has no underground palaces. There is no luxury beneath the earth. The air below belongs only to the revolution. But what happens when revolution smells like perfume and imported tobacco? What happens when propaganda broadcasts speak of famine relief, while beneath the speaker's podium lies a marble banquet hall set for 20? The dissonance is unbearable to anyone who still believes. That's why most citizens choose not to. They survive by denying what they suspect. In North Korea, truth itself is a luxury few can afford. There are stories, unconfirmed, unverifiable, that sometimes, during national crises, the underground world opens to receive new guests. Scientists, artists, loyal officers, even foreign technicians deemed useful. They are invited to temporary relocation facilities that, according to the state, protect them from external threats. But they never return. Some believe they are absorbed into the hidden system, given new lives, new identities, new rules. Others whisper of entire families living underground now, generations raised in quiet privilege, taught to believe that the world above collapsed long ago. A controlled micro-society within the regime, loyal beyond question, because they know no alternative. If that's true, then North Korea has not one population, but two, the seen and the unseen. Above ground, a soldier marches before statues that stretch to the heavens, his boots cracking frozen soil. Below ground, a servant polishes marble floors that reflect simulated sunlight. Both serve the same god. Both are prisoners of the same myth. Only one smells the imported roses that bloom without sunlight. Only one eats while the other watches broadcasts of national abundance. And yet, for all its secrecy, the underground luxury has begun to tremble beneath the weight of time. Technology is making invisibility harder to maintain. Satellite thermal readings detect pockets of warmth inconsistent with the city's surface map. The regime explains it away as industrial storage. But analysts know the difference between storage and sustained life. They can see the pulse, the hum of hidden electricity, the faint rhythm of air circulation where no official structure exists. The world is watching the shadows move. What does it mean then to live in a country where truth resides underground? It means that every citizen above walks upon a deception. The pavements of Pyongyang are the ceiling of another civilization, one designed to outlast them. And that, perhaps, is the most terrifying truth of all. Because even if the government were to fall, those tunnels might remain sealed and humming, perfect and useless, like a sarcophagus of luxury built for ghosts. But maybe, just maybe, the silence down there isn't complete anymore. Maybe the decay has begun to whisper back. Maybe the pipes groan louder at night, the lights flicker, the air tastes different. Perhaps even the elite begin to feel unease as they dine beneath the earth, hearing the faint drip of water echo through the halls. It's the sound of nature reclaiming what power tried to own. It's the slow heartbeat of truth returning to the surface. One day when the surface world finally cracks, when the walls of fear collapse and the people rise, these underground palaces will be all that remains, monuments to a lie carved too deeply to erase. The marble will still shine, the portraits will still hang, the lights may even still glow, but no one will be there to enjoy them. Only the silence will remain, vast and unbroken. The same silence that built this empire beneath the ground will, in the end, be its only survivor. It began with a tremor, not in the ground, but in the silence. The kind of silence that has weight, the kind that governments build to last forever. For decades, the world had looked at North Korea from above. Its parades, its monuments, its rehearsed devotion. But now the gaze turned downward. The first cracks in the illusion didn't come from spies or soldiers. They came from light, faint, thermal, impossible to explain. In 2016, satellite analysts studying Pyongyang noticed something strange. In zones officially designated as restricted, where no factories or housing existed, heat signatures pulsed at night. Consistent, rhythmic, deliberate. The state dismissed it as electrical grid anomalies, but the patterns told another story. They were too regular, too stable. Beneath the surface, power was being consumed, not sporadically, but luxuriously. Someone or something was living well in the dark. Foreign intelligence agencies had long suspected underground facilities, missile silos, command bunkers, fallout shelters. But the data showed warmth, not weapons. Temperature gradients resembling residential zones, large halls, even climate-controlled gardens. The luxury beneath Pyongyang was no longer myth. It had a heartbeat. Still, confirmation required more than images. It required voices. And voices in North Korea are the rarest resource of all. One of the first came from a woman named Jin-ah, who escaped through China in 2017. She had been a kitchen assistant in a state residence attached to a government maintenance project. Her description matched the rumors perfectly. She spoke of freight elevators descending for minutes, of kitchens that prepared food for people she never saw, of orders arriving through pneumatic tubes with no names, only seals. When asked what the food was like, she hesitated. "Imported," she said quietly. I didn't know the words, but the packaging had stars on it. When her interviewer showed her photographs of American brands, she wept, not from nostalgia, but from recognition. Another defector, a driver for high-ranking officials, claimed to have transported guests below during national events. He described entering a tunnel disguised as a road maintenance depot. The doors were like ship hulls, he said. When they closed, it felt like being buried. Inside, he saw light reflecting off marble and mirrors, a vision of perfection that felt wrong, almost sacred in its isolation. It was like entering a dream that didn't want you to wake up. As these accounts multiplied, a mosaic began to form. Independent researchers, cross-referencing defector testimonies with satellite data and seismic readings, began mapping the unmappable. What emerged was staggering. An underground infrastructure possibly rivaling the visible city itself, command centers, leisure spaces, emergency shelters and personal palaces. Yet the most haunting detail wasn't the scale. It was the intent. These spaces weren't designed merely to survive catastrophe. They were designed to outlive accountability. The discovery rattled even seasoned observers. For years, humanitarian agencies had focused on the visible suffering, famine, shortages, surveillance. Now beneath those hardships they glimpsed something worse, organized decadence. It wasn't just hypocrisy. It was geometry. A nation built on vertical morality, misery above, privilege below. The irony wasn't lost on those who studied the regime. In a country obsessed with hierarchy, even hell had its levels. In 2018, a classified report leaked from a European intelligence alliance described evidence of deep habitat construction beneath central Pyongyang, consistent with luxury use. The language was careful, bureaucratic, but the meaning was explosive. It mentioned recreational spaces, artificial climate zones, and materials inconsistent with local production. In simpler terms, imported comfort. Beneath a city where children fainted in breadlines, there were spas. When fragments of this analysis reached journalists, the world briefly turned its eyes toward the shadows. News outlets speculated, commentators debated. Was this real or another Cold War fantasy projected onto the Hermit Kingdom? But within North Korea, the regime reacted instantly. Streets near suspected sites were sealed. Construction noise intensified. The silence thickened again. But it was too late. The world had already heard the whisper. Inside the country, even rumors can kill. When citizens heard murmurs about gold beneath the ground, security forces swept through neighborhoods, interrogating those who dared repeat the words. One defector later said, "The more they denied it, the more we knew it was true." The denials became proof, the arrests became confession. Truth in North Korea is like heat under concrete. The harder you try to contain it, the more it seeps through. Foreign intelligence shifted tactics. Instead of chasing the tunnels directly, they followed what fed them. Imported materials, heavy machinery shipments, air filtration units bought from Chinese intermediaries, refrigeration systems marked for pharmaceutical storage, and always the same pattern, luxury goods routed through secrecy. French chandeliers mislabeled as industrial lighting. Italian marble declared as mineral sample. Each item a clue, each transaction a fingerprint. By 2020, the mosaic had shape. Analysts identified at least 5 likely luxury underground zones beneath Pyongyang and surrounding mountains. The largest, codename Project Cholima, was believed to house not just emergency bunkers, but entire residential quarters for the ruling elite. Its layout, reconstructed from satellite anomalies, mirrored the capital above. Streets, buildings, even artificial parks. A city beneath a city, the mirror image of control. And yet, even as these revelations surfaced, they raised a deeper question. Why build beauty where no one can see it? Why hide comfort in the dark? The answer, some theorized, lies in the psychology of the regime. For those in power, beauty is not meant to be shared. It's meant to be possessed. Secrecy magnifies worth. The fewer who know, the more sacred the indulgence becomes. In a country where even a smile can be interpreted as subversion, private pleasure is the ultimate rebellion. The leaders have rebelled against their own ideology, hiding their humanity underground. But there's another possibility, one far more sinister. Some researchers believe the underground luxury serves as a literal ark for the dynasty, a refuge prepared not for war, but for the end of faith. When the regime collapses, and they all know it will, someday, the chosen will retreat below, sealed away with their art, their food, their lies. The surface will crumble, the people will revolt, but beneath it all, the dynasty will wait, watching, waiting, ready to rise again. A haunting rumor circulates among defectors from the military. They say that deep beneath Mount Kumgang lies a theater, perpetually lit, its stage set with instruments, its chairs covered in plastic, as if waiting for an audience that never arrives. In the center stands a piano, always tuned. The keys are polished weekly. No one plays it. No one dares. It is maintenance for a future that never comes. The sound of a regime preparing to be immortal. And then there are the photographs, blurry, ambiguous. Some show vents carved into cliffsides where no industrial activity exists. Others depict cranes lowering steel beams into mountain mouths, disguised as caves. None are definitive, but together they form a portrait of denial, the shape of a secret too vast to remain hidden. The truth of North Korea's underground luxury isn't a single image or revelation. It's a pattern, repeated across decades. Each tunnel, each chamber, a piece of a larger puzzle. The regime's attempt to build eternity from fear. As outside awareness grows, so does the regime's paranoia. Foreign media are banned from filming subway lines beyond the tourist route. Entire districts become no-go zones during maintenance periods. And when foreign delegations are escorted through Pyongyang, their itineraries are carefully timed to avoid vibrations, literal and political, from below. They see clean streets, marching soldiers, and perfect choreography. They never hear the generators humming beneath their feet. For those who've escaped, the knowledge is both vindication and curse. They can finally speak the truth, but they will never be believed by those still inside. When I told my family, one defector said, they laughed. They said the leader lives simply, eats rice like us. They said I was poisoned by lies. I wanted to scream, but I knew it would only hurt them. In North Korea, disbelief is a defense mechanism. To doubt the illusion is to invite despair. Even now, researchers and defectors continue piecing together fragments. Every new detail deepens the unease. Every confirmation tightens the contradiction, because what they've uncovered isn't just wealth, it's theology. The underground world is the regime's heaven, built on the surface world's hell. Its luxury is sacred because it's forbidden. Its existence is proof that the regime doesn't merely control life, it controls reality. And somewhere beneath Pyongyang, that reality still hums. Lights still burn. Air still circulates. Generators still pulse like a hidden heart. The elite sleep soundly, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, that the world above them has begun to watch, to measure, to understand. The illusion is cracking. The earth is whispering. The truth once buried is stirring again. Above ground, the streets remain quiet. The statues gleam. The people bow. But below them, the foundations tremble, not from war, but from awareness. And in that trembling lies the beginning of exposure, the moment when a secret becomes a story, and a story becomes a reckoning. The question now is not whether the world will see North Korea's underground luxury, but when the people who live above it will realize that their suffering has always been the ceiling of someone else's paradise. When dawn touches Pyongyang, it does not reach everyone. For millions, the day begins in cold rooms lit by grey sunlight slipping through cracked glass. For a chosen few, it never truly ends. The underground remains bright, its light eternal and sterile, untouched by the rhythm of the earth. But the world above and the world below share one truth now. They both know that each other exists. Awareness, once born, cannot be buried again. The luxury beneath North Korea is not merely a secret anymore. It is a mirror, reflecting back at the surface the cost of silence, the fragility of faith. Somewhere, perhaps right now, a child on the streets of Pyongyang is reciting a hymn to the great leader, believing him to be the sun itself. And beneath her, sealed in marble and gold, the same leader's portrait glows under artificial light. Two suns, one imagined, one manufactured, both burning with the same deceitful radiance. Power in North Korea has always been theatrical. Its grandeur depends on the gaze. The audience above the ground must believe, must applaud, must weep. But what happens when the audience begins to sense the stage itself has a basement? When they realize that the play continues long after the curtains close, that's when fear evolves into something quieter, something like doubt. And in this regime, doubt is treason. The truth of the underground is not in its chandeliers or imported champagne. It's in what those things represent, the psychology of a government that must hide its comfort to sustain its mythology. It's the ultimate inversion of the human story. Civilization is supposed to climb upward, toward light, toward openness, toward the sky. North Korea's ruling class dug downward instead, seeking safety in darkness, mistaking secrecy for strength. They built their paradise in the one place the people cannot see, because to see it would mean to awaken. Every empire hides something. Rome hid its cruelty behind temples. The Soviets hid theirs behind ideology. North Korea hides its humanity behind concrete. And yet, the longer one hides from the sun, the paler the truth becomes. Inside those tunnels where the air never changes and the clocks have no meaning, there's a strange kind of rot. Not physical decay, but moral decomposition. The kind that comes when luxury is no longer joy, only armor. When comfort is not chosen, but enforced. Imagine being born in such a world, a child of privilege, raised below the earth, told that the surface is chaos, that sunlight burns, that the leader's light is enough. Would you believe it? Would you question the truth if every breath of air was filtered through doctrine, every smile rehearsed beneath portraits that never blink? The tragedy of North Korea's hidden luxury is not only what it stole from the poor, it's what it stole from the rich, the ability to live honestly. Perhaps that is why the silence is so profound below. It isn't the silence of peace, it's the silence of guilt. A collective hush sustained by fear and comfort intertwined. The leader's paradise depends on never hearing the voices above, the footsteps of hungry citizens, the songs of children practicing loyalty oaths, the wind scraping against the statues they built to themselves. Down there the air smells of nothing, because nothing alive remains. Outside, the world debates sanctions and diplomacy. Satellites orbit patiently, watching the land shift, measuring warmth where there should be cold. Analysts trace the faint glow of generators, the consistent pulse of hidden life, but technology can only expose. It cannot free. The tunnels endure because they are more than physical. They are psychological fortresses built into the nation's identity. Every lie told above needs a place to rest below. And yet, no wall lasts forever. History shows us that the most impregnable empires fall not when attacked, but when the illusion sustaining them collapses. Truth is a slow flood. It seeps through cracks, through rumors, through memory. The same way water carves stone, awareness erodes fear. One day those vibrations under Pyongyang, the hum of air systems, the engines of secrecy, will meet another kind of tremor, not from bombs or earthquakes, but from voices, human voices rising from the surface, demanding to know what lies beneath their feet. That day will not come suddenly. It will start quietly, like all revolutions of thought do. A whisper here, a question there. A child asking why the leader needs a palace underground if he is the sun above. A mother daring to imagine that comfort can exist without fear. These are the real cracks, the invisible ones that no concrete can seal. And when those cracks spread, the tunnels will become what they were always destined to be. Tombs. Beautiful air-conditioned tombs filled with the relics of a delusion. The chandeliers will still hang, the fountains will still run, but there will be no one left to admire them. The regime's attempt at immortality will have achieved only preservation, a museum of its own lies, sealed in perfection. The question for the world is what to do when that day comes. What happens when the earth finally exhales and the doors open, revealing gold where there should have been grain, marble where there should have been mercy? The shock will not be in the architecture, but in the realization that every government, every human system is capable of the same descent, hiding comfort beneath suffering, truth beneath spectacle. North Korea is merely the purest form of that instinct made stone. If history is merciful, those tunnels will one day become monuments, not to the Kims, but to the endurance of truth. Tourists will walk through them in silence, tracing fingers along the cold marble, listening to the echo of what was once forbidden. They will whisper, as all visitors do in places of tragedy, the same simple phrase, "How could they have believed this would last?" And the walls will answer with the only sound they know, the sigh of recycled air, the ghost of a nation that mistook silence for safety. Above ground, life will return. The real sun will rise over Pyongyang unfiltered. Children will laugh without rehearsing their joy. The river will reflect the sky instead of concrete. And perhaps for the first time the people will walk freely over the earth that once hid their ruler's paradise. They may never know the full extent of what was buried, or maybe they will choose not to look, because some secrets once unearthed are too heavy to carry. But even if the tunnels remain sealed, their story will not, because truth, once spoken, multiplies. It crosses borders, defies censorship, survives in whispers and in light. And the world, having seen what hides beneath, can never again look at North Korea or itself in quite the same way. In the end, the underground luxury few knew existed will be remembered not for its beauty but for its loneliness, a monument to fear disguised as faith, a palace without a sky. And when the silence of those chambers finally meets the wind above, it will sound not like triumph but like confession. The earth will close around it gently, reclaiming what was stolen. The light will return. And the story of a nation that tried to hide paradise beneath its own suffering will fade into dust, proof that even the deepest darkness cannot outlast the sun.